Hello, this is me again, your instructor in History 180, and I wanted to give you some feedback on your midterm assignment, which I have graded by now. You will get your own individual feedback in almost all cases, along with the grade, so make sure that you go into your grade section and look for the feedback that you get on your assignments, okay? But let me tell you most generally what was important here with this midterm assignment. There are always two parts to these assignments. There's, on the one hand, the content, on the other hand, it's the format, because I want you to also learn how to be better and more efficient writers. The first step to be an efficient writer is to read the question carefully. In this particular assignment, the question or the challenge was to write 3 paragraphs that would fill out content to the overarching thesis, and the thesis offered a contradiction or a tension within the progressive movement, which was on the one hand that there was a lot of work done on behalf of city dwellers and workers in the progressive era, but on the other hand, progressives seemed to be blind to race issues or actively working against the rights of African Americans in the South and elsewhere in the country. So that is what you had to write about. The format asked that you identify a topic sentence. Now, a topic sentence is not a headline, nor is it a sentence somewhere in the paragraph that is important. It is the opener to the paragraph. The first sentence to a paragraph should give a reader the idea of what this paragraph is about. So that if I had to do skim reading, say, the first sentence of a paragraph would let me know what to expect, and if I want to skim that, then I move on to the next paragraph, and the first sentence of that paragraph then tells me what that paragraph is about. So that's what good writing is like. You make an effort in your first sentence and really summarize and craft what you are going to discuss in that paragraph, and help your reader understand better what follows. What follows then should be evidence that illustrates the point that you were making in your opening topic sentence. So that doesn't have to be all the evidence that you can muster, but it has to be evidence that sort of illustrates your point. So the topic sentence is the key point that you're making. Here you would say, for example, progressives make significant improvements to the daily living conditions of Americans and immigrants in cities, and then you would give illustrating evidence in the paragraph. And then you do that in the second paragraph and then in the third paragraph. Ideally here, your 3 paragraphs in terms of content would address city reform, then reform for workers. In both paragraphs you would speak also to the issue of immigrants, and then in the third paragraph you would highlight the contradiction that African Americans, people of color, were left out in these progressive reforms, and also allude to why that was the case. It was important in this assignment to really understand that you had to address all these 3 elements that were mentioned in the thesis: urban reforms, immigration, workers, and the third paragraph, the contrast, was the blindness on race issues, or the actively hostile position of progressives when it came to issues of civil rights for African Americans. In terms of format, it was important that you identified a clear, coherent topic sentence where you made the effort to craft that sentence carefully, and made that clear in the opening to the paragraph. When you now go towards your final assignment, make sure that you really sort of apply these lessons and write a clear opening sentence to a paragraph. You don't have to make that sentence big, complicated, bulky. It is about the thought that you put in writing, not the number of words that you put on the page, where quality comes through. So a 2-line sentence in the opening of a paragraph is effective. A 5-line sentence is a run-on sentence where you try to just pack everything in and somehow think that that covers it. Don't write for me. Write for a listener who listens to you present this paper. Would they be able to understand it? This is how I usually test my own writing. I read it out loud. If I have a hard time reading through it, then the sentences aren't good enough. If I stumble, then I may have a grammatical error in it. So what I recommend that you do is that when you write an essay, when you write a paragraph, that you read it out loud. If you have a hard time doing that, then you need to revise your writing. If you bore yourself, then maybe you don't have enough specifics in it. One of the things I often mention in my feedback is that I miss specifics. So if you talk generically about how progressives wanted to do good, but then you don't tell me what this actually was, then it reads more like you sort of wrote this from memory because you thought, oh, progressives, what might this possibly be? And you sort of let your intuition do the work, and then talk about how, yeah, workers were probably an important issue, and then use some more generic phrases. I don't really get any idea that you studied this topic. So be specific. Offer a specific act, a specific law maybe that progressives enacted. Give me a number. How many workers were affected by this? What particular event, the Ludlow strike or the Shirtwaist Triangle factory fire, triggered reforms? Give me detailed specifics that tells me something about what you learned. So that's important. And for that, it's important that you actually read the textbook. Some of you, I don't think, read the textbook, but instead sort of looked online and tried to find other materials. I have said this before, I'll say it again. This is not a good strategy. Unless I specifically ask that you research outside the course materials, don't do it. Okay? So you have one more week to go. You have one small writing assignment left, where you need to summarize a document, and then you have the big writing assignment, the final, that will address issues surrounding World War II. Again, read the assignment and the question very carefully and prepare the content. Then organize your material and write carefully crafted topic sentences, after which the evidence then flows much more easily. Okay, so that's what you still have to do. Then you still also, of course, have to do that discussion topic on the Vietnam War. What are the lessons? Try to think about how we can use these lessons today. What do we learn today from the Vietnam War? Okay. I will get back in touch with you at the end of week 5 to let you know about the assignments that are reopened for you in the last couple of days before grades are due, so that you can catch up with things. All right, so keep working hard. Take this advice to heart. Don't be hurt if your grades are poor or if I give you critical feedback. That has to happen sometimes, and it's better to come from me than to come from a supervisor later who will ask you, why did no one ever tell you in college that your writing needs improvement? I'm here to tell you this. I need to give you bad news if the news is bad. So I hope you can understand that. Okay? If you got good news, if you got good grades, enjoy, carry on working hard, and I'll check in with you in a week. Bye.